Welcome to Brier's Music Showcase. I am Bryer Cisneros and welcome back to another video. And it's time for another episode of Top 5 Albums of the 1970s. And today we are talking about 1977. Now, for a moment, I forgot about this year. And what I mean by that was that I didn't think there were albums that I would really love. And of course that's stupid of me, because when I looked at all the albums that came out this year, I realized that, oh my god, there's some fantastic albums that came out this year. So definitely looking forward to sharing them. But of course, got to bring this up. So of course, I'm only restricted to what I have in my personal collection. And I feel like I didn't say this enough. There are sometimes I said it, and then there are sometimes I didn't say it, but please know, this is just my opinion. This is just for fun. Luckily, a lot of people have been pretty good. No one's giving me shit for my choices, but there's always at least one person who's got to talk and be like, oh my god, your list sucks. How come you don't have such and such by blah blah blah? Like I said, this is just my opinion. Again, I'm just having fun here. I mean, Freddie, back me up. What do you think of all this?
I mean, it's only a bloody record. People get so excited about these things.
Thank you, Freddie. Now, now, without further ado, let's kick off this list with my number 5. So to kick off my list at number 5, this is a drop-dead classic album. It had to be my top 5 here. And surprisingly, it's the only one in this list where I don't have a vinyl copy of it. I know, shame on me. So number 5 is Rumors by Fleetwood Mac. So many people have talked about this album. I'm not gonna provide anything new, but to give the brief history, so of course this was recorded during a tumultuous time for the band. Relationships were breaking down. Lindsay and Stevie broke up, and John McVie and Christine were going through a divorce, and Mick Fleetwood was going through a divorce outside of the band. So yeah, the whole band was a mess, and there was also a lot of drugs too. But yet, despite all the turmoil, even though there were points where they literally could have imploded on themselves, they came out with this album, and it sold tons. I mean, absolutely is one of the best albums of the 70s in general, honestly. And come on, this album has balls. But yeah, anyway, jokes aside, yeah, I'm gonna go through this one quickly because again, many people talk about this. So starts out with Secondhand News, great opening track, a good Lindsay song to kind of set the tone. Even though with all the sadness, you don't hear a lot of sadness. Well, there's definitely some sadness, but not as much as you think. Of course, Dreams, well, that's where the sadness is coming in, but Dreams is a great Stevie song. It's a classic song. You hear it a lot on the radio, and for good reasons. I still really enjoy it. I'm not tired of it. Yeah. Never Going Back Again, a very short Lindsay song, just him and the guitar, just kind of playing along. And it's a nice song. You have another big hit with Don't Stop. Again, that's a very uplifting song. Just don't stop thinking about tomorrow. It'll soon be here. It'll be better than before. Again, it's supposed to be very positive sounding, and yeah, I love it. And of course, Lindsay sings a verse. Christine sings a verse. It's a great song. Then you have probably my favorite song on the album, and probably my favorite Fleetwood Mac song in general. We have Go Your Own Way, just a great rock song. And yeah, it's a very angry song towards Stevie, but still, it's a terrific song. I love it to death. And then I think side 1 closes off with Christine McVie's great Songbird, just a beautiful song. I mean, rest in peace to Christine McVie, of course, just absolutely love her. And yeah, this is definitely the song I played when I found out she passed away, because to me, when I think Christine McVie, it's usually this song that pops up. Yeah, so yeah. Moving on, we have another very well-known song. We have The Chain. again, another song about the band's like breakups, and you know, and we all know the story. But yeah, it's still just a great atmosphere, just a good pulse to it. And again, John McVie has a good moment in the spotlight with his bass riff in the middle of the song, which is again very iconic. You Make Loving Fun, kind of going back to a more upbeat song. That's a great one by Christine, very nice. I Don't Want to Know, another very upbeat sounding song. I don't know if it's supposed to be happy, but it sounds like it, at least. Then Christine comes back with Oh Daddy, another great vocal by her. And then the album closes off with Gold Dust Woman by Stevie. And yeah, very good. Very solid song to close it out. So, yep. I guess you can say this album is also perfect. I don't think there's any songs I don't like. Obviously, there's some songs that I don't go back to that often, but in the context of the album, it makes perfect sense. So let's go through the packaging. So, of course, here's the disc here. Pretty standard. Not much to say. Don't know why I spoke like that. But regardless, I'm done. From here, open it up. Very short booklet, but you have a nice band photo there. Putting on a nice facade. With all those smiles, there's actually a lot of tears inside. And of course, it gives you all the lyrics, of course, that you want. Some nice little penguins on the bottom. Then back, you just have more photos of the band there. All right. Always good to start with a classic album in your list. So that is my number 5. Up next for my number 4, here is an album many people might think I might have as my number 1, but subverting expectations. Number 4 for me is going to be News of the World by Queen. Like I said, even though I would have loved to put this at number 1, my top 3 are just albums I listen to a little more than this album. I know it's very shocking, but it's true. But of course, this is one of their classics, and it's either this album and Night at the Opera that people always bring up as the most recognizable Queen albums. And I mean, it goes without saying, by the looks of it. I mean, it has the iconic album cover with the robot, of course, made even more famous from the Family Guy episode, of course. But yeah, before we get into the actual packaging of the vinyl, first let's go over the track listing. And oh boy, there's a lot to get through. So I'm just going to kind of take this out so I can look at it. So for side 1, we have, of course, it starts out with a bang. I mean, you get a 1-2 punch. You have We Will Rock You and We Are the Champions, just 2 of Queen's most recognizable songs ever. Like, you cannot escape them. You're going to hear them in tons of sports events till the end of time, basically. So, yeah, I mean, I love those songs. So, of course, great way to open the album. Then you have Sheer Heart Attack, which apparently was supposed to be on the album Sheer Heart Attack a couple years prior, but for some reason it didn't get finished, and so they brought it to here. And you know, I want to say it was the song kind of changed over time, because the song sounds very punk-like, and of course by the time this album came out, it's upside down, but by the time this album came out, punk was in full swing. I mean, the Sex Pistols were big, you have other bands that were popping up, and to many people in the punk scene, many people viewed Queen as kind of lame. And I highly disagree with those people, but I digress. That was just the time. But regardless, I guess Sheer Heart Attack ended up supposed to be their little jab at it. You know, this is what punk sounds like to us, or something like that. I'm not really sure for certain, but of course it was written by Roger Taylor, so maybe he knows. So after that, we have another great piano ballad. We have All Dead, All Dead, which was written by Brian May, who wrote the song after his childhood cat passed away. And as a cat person, yes, that's gonna ride home with me, because for those who didn't know, I recently lost a cat earlier this year, so yeah, I played that song a little bit. But anyhow, so moving on. So the next song is one of my favorite Queen songs, and that of course is Spread Your Wings, a John Deacon song, and absolutely adore it. Just love the storytelling in that song. Just a good message of trying to break away from a dead-end job. And funny enough, fun fact, it's the first Queen song not to have any harmonies in it, which is kind of interesting, but still very underrated song in my opinion. Then side 1 closes with Fight from the Inside, a Roger Taylor song, very solid song. Side 2, you have Get Down, Make Love. I heard some people aren't a huge fan of the song. I get it, but I actually do kind of like it a little bit. It's definitely not Queen's worst in my opinion. Then we have Sleeping on the Sidewalk, a Brian May song. Another very solid song. Definitely one of the weaker ones, I must say, but still, I like it. Who Needs You, a great little kind of Spanish flair into it, which is kind of cool. Of course, that's another John Deacon penned song. It's Late, another good song. Definitely very cool. Like, I like the part when it kind of speeds up. It really starts to rock out towards the end. Still, it's not one of my all-time favorites on the album, but I do enjoy it. And then it closes out with probably Queen's jazziest song, with My Melancholy Blues. Kind of a slow, piano-led, again, something you'd hear like in a piano lawn, I forgot how you say it, but one of those piano bars type of things. You know, you're singing in the bar and there's like some guy in the piano just playing along. Yeah, kind of a nice way to close out the album. So yeah, very good album. Yeah, again, it's just one of those albums. There's just Queen albums I prefer more than this one, but again, it's still a classic, so I can't deny that. So without further ado, let's go over here and let's look at the packaging of itself. Now, I've shown this vinyl very recently, actually. Like, I did a whole video going over my recent vinyl pickups from March to now, and of course, this was brought up. So I'm not going to go too in depth. But of course, we all know the album cover. I just made a joke about it earlier. But of course, you have the robot here. Then you have the band in the robot's hand. Of course, there's Brian. There's Brian. There's Freddie, and John can be seen down here falling. And of course, what's great is that, of course, with the vinyl, you get the full artwork. There you see Roger down there, just falling to the ground there. Hopefully, you can see the full image here. But of course, I'll do it over here, just to be safe. And of course, there's a inside image here of the robot reaching into the stadium, I'm assuming. So here we go. So here's an image here, and then of course here it is over here. So very cool. And then let me show you the record real quick. So here it is. Hopefully you see that side there, but hopefully you can see that it has the Queen crest there, of course, their logo, and it's the same thing on the other side too. So hopefully you can see that. And it did come with the paper sleeve. So here it is. So here is it's in this nice red color with all the lyrics, and then on the back more lyrics for side 2, and then you have a little picture of the band down there, which is kind of nice. So yep, so that's the record. So now let's look at the CD copy. So here it is. This is a 90s issue. 1991 this particular copy came out, and it's the same thing. So you still got the album cover. The big downside of this particular CD is that it does not include the full gatefold. You just got this and that's it. You don't fold it out and you see Roger falling. Kind of a shame, but it does keep the inner sleeve. It does keep the inner sleeve here, or the gatefold, I should say. But they kind of covered it up with the track listing there. So not the best replica of the vinyl, but you open it up, and you have all the lyrics with some numerous photos there. So that's pretty much it in there. Let me just show you the disc. And here's what the disc looks like in this nice green, kind of fitting the theme of the album. And one thing I should also mention is that this also came with a bonus track. The bonus track is a 1991 remix of We Will Rock You. And what's funny is that it's in parentheses. So 1991 bonus remix ruined by Rick Rubin. Well, at least they're honest about it, because yeah, I almost never play that. I just ended there, but interesting. So there you have it. That is my number 4 favorite album for 1977. Coming up next for my number 3. Now this is an album that I've always loved, and I know there are some people who aren't a fan of this band, but I love them, and that's all that matters. So number 3 for me is going to be The Grand Illusion by Styx. So Styx, I shown an album in 1975, I believe. I showed Equinox, and Crystal Ball made an honorable mention, but here Styx once again in the top 5, and this is definitely a classic in their catalog. To many people, it's their best, and I wouldn't argue with that. It's either this album or Pieces of 8, which kind of fall into my favorite Styx album, if that made sense there. But regardless, I mean, yeah, let me just take it out real quick and we'll go over the track listing. I mean, this is pretty much the classic lineup at full force. Of course, you have Dennis DeYoung on vocals and keyboards. Tommy Shaw, his second album with the band, and he's already made a huge impact. Just his guitar work is great. Then you have James Young, the second guitarist, who also has some great guitar riffs here. Then you have the Panazzo brothers with Chuck and John, who are on bass and drums respectively. So side 1 opens with the title track, and just the perfect way to open it up. Just the keyboards and the guitars just all blend together, and then you have Dennis's vocals come in, just really setting the stage on what is about to come. Just The Grand Illusion just being about how, you know, people in media, like celebrities, politicians maybe, always have this like big illusion that they're living this grand life, but you know, sometimes that's not always the case. But it's fantastic. And then you have Fooling Yourself, which is a Tommy Shaw track, which of course is a song was actually written about Dennis, because that was how Tommy viewed Dennis when he first met him. Just this guy who was always like focused on the success, and Tommy was kind of like, hey, chill out, man, just chill out. But yeah, it's kind of funny, but still fantastic. Like the keyboard intro is just so amazing, and Tommy's vocals are also really good. Superstars, very solid song, kind of a more mid-tempo song, probably my least favorite on side 1, but I still really enjoy it. And then you have probably Styx's most well-known song, and that is Come Sail Away, which you hear in a ton. It usually gets lumped with yacht rock because of course it has sail in the title, but regardless, it's still a classic, and I just love the switch up from a slow piano ballad to a good rocker. And then you have the whole middle section where it goes into this kind of keyboard heavy, very atmospheric type of section, and then it goes back into the rock section, which is very cool. So side 2, you have James Young's song, which is Miss America. Very good, again, solid rock song. Even though James Young is probably my least favorite singer of the band, he's still good. Again, his guitar work is just, he's like the real gritty rocker of the band. Then you have Man in the Wilderness, another Tommy Shaw song. Love that song. Just love the emotion poured into it. But yeah, it's fantastic. And then you have probably the most underrated song on here, which is Castle Wall, which is probably their most proggy song on the album, because Styx always dabbled in a bit of progressive rock, but this is probably the progressive rock song of the album. And then you close off with the grand finale, which of course sort of bookends the album, has the same melody as the title track, just kind of puts it all in a nice bow. But yeah, perfect album in my opinion. So let's move over here. Let's go over. So of course you can see the album cover. Again, The Grand Illusion, this whole thing is basically an illusion. I'm not going to go every single thing about this image, but you can, this is one of those covers you can kind of look at for a while and just kind of figure out what's going on. But of course on the back you have, of course, the band here in the wilderness. So of course lists all their names here, and then the track listing is down there. It's pretty standard. You're kind of, like I said, kind of your standard packaging. No real, no gatefold or anything. It just kind of gives you the exactly what you need. Then you have the record, AMA. So it looks like this. Yeah, both have the same label, so I'm not going to flip it. But yeah, that's what it looks like. Hopefully you can see that. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and move on to the CD copy that I have. And I got this used, but it still looks very good. And it pretty much is basically the same as the record, except just scrunched together to fit on a CD. But yeah, you open it up, show the disc. Here it is. Pretty average. But of course this is an old CD copy of this, so of course that's to be expected. And then here's the booklet, and it's kind of more like a pamphlet because you just open it up and that's all you get. Just gives you the lyrics and the credits and stuff like that. Again, just gives you the basic information. So yeah, there you have it. So that is my third favorite album of 1977. So now we move on to my second favorite album of 1977. Now, kind of similar with Styx. This is another type of album where some people love it and there's some people who hate it. And luckily for me, I'm the one that loves it. And so number 2 is going to be Meatloaf, Bat Out of Hell. Now, the reason why this album gets a lot of hate is, for one reason, the album cover is kind of misleading, because I hear stories from a lot of hard rock and metal fans who see this cover and they're like, oh my god, this is gonna be heavy as hell, and then they play it and they're like, what the heck is this? So if most of you should know, Meatloaf is known as a very theatrical person. He started out as an actor, and I've heard in many interviews he actually considers himself an actor first, singer second. So kind of interesting tidbit there. But yeah, I mean, regardless, it's still a pretty badass cover. I mean, you have this kind of like, I don't know what you call these, like devil thing or whatever. I know there's a name for him, but I forgot at the moment. But like, he's on a motorcycle, he's bursting out of the grave, hence the title Bat Out of Hell. But yeah, I mean, the whole album is this huge production. Again, it's supposed to sound like something you hear on Broadway or something like that. It's kind of like sort of like a rock opera, only there's no concept really. But yeah, it's just big, it's bombastic. Of course, Meatloaf is giving his all as he's known for. Of course, Jim Steinman wrote all the songs, as it says so on the bottom. Songs by Jim Steinman. And then yeah, let's go through the track listing. I mean, it starts out with the title track, which is one of my favorite songs of all time. Just a fantastic opening song, just killer. It's like 9 minutes, it's almost 10 minutes long, but you never get tired of it. There's just so many memorable sections to it. The guitar work by Todd Rundgren, who also produced this album, is off the chain. Then of course you have, I mean, to me, when I think Meatloaf, it's this song, because again, you get the full extent of his vocal range. The part where I get the most chills is at the very end, where he's just belting it out, just like a bat out of hell. Just, he gets higher and higher, and then on the last one, he holds it, and it's just the most goosebump-inducing thing I've heard. So yeah, I love the song. After that, you Took the Words Right Out of My Mouth, which starts with that very interesting introduction, but still very fun, great song. Again, it's supposed to be have a sort of Phil Spector type of production style to it, but it's also really good. Heaven Can Wait, great piano ballad here. Again, Meatloaf has a great vocal here. All Revved Up and With No Place to Go, great rock song. Again, very good stuff. 2 out of 3 Ain't Bad, probably one of the most another one of the most well-known songs on here. Again, another great ballad. From what I've heard in interviews, according to Jim Steinman, he was kind of trying to write a sort of Eagles type of ballad. And you know, when I hear it, do hear a little bit of Eagles. Like I can definitely, I think I can kind of picture the Eagles covering the song if they wanted to, which I don't think they ever did to my knowledge, but would have been kind of cool. Then you have Paradise by the Dashboard Lights, which is another Drop Dead classic. Again, you have Ellen Foley as the second vocalist, as the female, and again, it's just a fun song. Yeah, it's a classic for a reason. If you have not heard that song, go check it out. It's a trip. It's a fun trip, though. And then you close out with the, I think this song's 10 minutes long, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, I know it's a long song, but you have For Crying Out Loud, which again, Meatloaf's vocals is basically the starring thing in this song. I mean, again, but of course it builds up. There's a whole orchestra behind them, and it's just like a grand crescendo to the album, I think. So again, this is another album I think it's perfect. There's no song I don't like. I enjoy every minute of this. So yes, so let's move over here. Of course, again, I already showed the cover. We all know how cool it looks, even though it's kind of misleading on what you might get. But if you do, but as long as you expect what's coming, still very cool. Then we have the back, which is just a picture of, there's Meatloaf right there. There's Jim right here. Then you have this woman there. I don't know who she's supposed to be. But still, kind of interesting. Not the greatest photo I would have chosen, but it's fine. Then of course you have the track listing, and of course dedicated to Wesley and Wilma Day and Louis Steinman. So Louis, something like that. I guess that's dedicated to their wife and kids, maybe. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Again, similar with the sticks. There's not a whole lot to it. This is like the standard. And then let me show you the record. So it's over here. It's on Epic Cleveland record, something like that. So yep, not much to say. And then on the back, this is what the inner sleeve looked like. Again, kind of plain. Just gives you the lyrics. Nothing really, no other pictures or anything. So again, not much to say in the overall packaging, but the music speaks for itself. So that is the record. So let me just put that to the side and let's look at my CD copy. So here it is. Then you have the back, and you have Meatloaf right there. This probably would have been a better image of him. And then you have this whole paragraph. I'm not going to read it, but it kind of gives you a little backstory here, and then the track listing on the side. This is it says Essential Rock Classics, and that's true, because I know for a fact this is one of the best-selling albums of all time, maybe top 5 if I'm not mistaken, last time I checked. But here's the disc. It's nice red. Then here's the inside. There's pictures, and there's the same image on the vinyl there. Let's look at the booklet here. So there. So here's a photo of him live. And the lyrics, of course. No other photos though, kind of a shame. Because you know, it's Meatloaf. I would like to see more live shots here. Well, there's one there, but that's about it. And on the first page, so yeah, they could have done more with this, in my opinion. So yeah, that's number 2 for this list. And of course, like always, before we get to number 1, let's showcase some honorable mentions.
Mr. Blue Sky, please tell us why. Hey, come back to you.
And finally, my number 1 favorite album of 1977 is The Stranger by Billy Joel. So this is an album I have a lot of history with, which I'll get into when I get to the track listing, but it's my favorite Billy Joel album, and it's the first time he's made the list, I think, on any of these lists in the series, which is kind of surprising. We'll see if I fix that, but regardless, I adore this album. Another perfect album in my opinion. So yeah, let's go over the track listing now, actually, since we're on the topic of it. So starts out with Moving Out, parentheses, Anthony's song. Great opening track, just the piano playing, the guitar on here is fantastic. It's hard to describe, honestly, but yeah, I just absolutely love it. It's just one of Billy's best. I just absolutely, really, that's a song I go back to quite often. The second song, I do have more to say, and that is the title track. And this is, I listened to this album a ton when I was in high school, and I took drama class in high school. I took it for my last 2 years of high school, and I did a whole assignment. I was definitely in the more advanced class. So your final assignment for the more advanced students, that they had to direct a one-act play. Of course, I jumped at it at the chance because I want to direct something. And so the thing is, I'm not going to go the whole details of it because I told it before. Jason, if you're watching this, you probably know because I told the story when I entered your contest one time. But for the one-act play, I needed music. I need some kind of music, just for a transitional thing when we shifted from scene to scene. And the opening track, the opening piano, the slow piano intro with Billy whistling. I used that section. I didn't use the part when the song actually starts, but I just used that piano intro, just as a transitional piece, because The Stranger is a song that deals with at least to my interpretation, it deals with putting on a front, wearing a mask, just hiding your emotions, and my play actually sort of dealt with that, and so hence why I decided to use it. By the way, if you're curious, the play didn't go well. But regardless, still fantastic song. I love the guitar riff when the song kicks in, just a great song. And that becomes like the motif, like that piano intro kind of becomes a motif throughout the album. After that, you have Just the Way You Are, one of my favorite, maybe my favorite Billy Joel song, if I'm not mistaken, but just a great piano, well, not really piano ballad, but, well, there's some, but it's more keyboard led. But that's a great ballad here. And that song was, there's a couple songs that were written for his wife at the time, who I believe was also his manager, and their relationship wasn't the best, and so he wrote a lot of these songs here. But yeah, I love it. Then you have Scenes from an Italian Restaurant, which is one of Billy Joel's masterpieces, honestly. And I know Billy Joel has said himself that's probably his favorite song he's ever written. And definitely, I can definitely see why. Just so many good sections and so many memorable parts to it. And yeah, it's just absolutely spectacular. Then you go to side 2, we have Vienna, another great song. Not much to say, but love it. Only the Good Die Young, just a good, I mean, with a phrase like Only the Good Die Young, you think it would kind of be a sad song, but no, it's this upbeat, very joyful type of song. But yeah, I love it. Then you have another ballad on here, which is She's Always a Woman, which I know for a fact was written about his wife at the time, because he's singing stuff like, let me see if I can find. Which did this come with the lyric sheet? Yes, it did. So let me just find that paragraph, that line there. Where is it? It's right here. All right. Then she'll promise you more than the gardens of Eden. Then she'll carelessly cut you and laugh while you're bleeding. But she'll bring out the best and the worst you can be. Blame it all on yourself, because she's always a woman to me. There's so many kind of contradictions. Like you love her, but yet she does these kind of bad things to you. I like the irony, honestly. But regardless, it's still a very beautiful song. Okay, then you have the last 2 songs, which are probably the deep cuts on the only real deep cuts on the album, because every song I've mentioned, a good fair amount of people have heard them, but the last songs, Get It Right the First Time and Everybody Has a Dream, always seem to get forgotten. And that's kind of a shame, because I actually think they are very underrated. Get It Right the First Time, again, another one of those great upbeats, kind of not quite jazzy, maybe a little bit of jazz flair to it, but again, it's very, very catchy. I love it. And then you have Everybody Has a Dream, which is a very underrated ballad. Just a great way to close out the album, in my opinion. And then it kind of goes back to that piano intro from The Stranger, to kind of, again, kind of fitting into that motif, that melody that we've heard a couple times here. But there you go, that's the whole album there. But yeah, it's absolutely spectacular. I said love a lot, I realized, but I'm sorry, I'm a broken record. But hopefully you get the picture on why this is my number one. So with that being said, let's go ahead and move over here. So the album cover is kind of interesting. You have Billy just on the bed here, kind of by himself. You have some boxing gloves there. And you have the mask here, again, kind of fitting well with The Stranger. Of course, fitting the name of the album and the song. Yeah, kind of a very, I don't know, kind of simple, but I think it's pretty effective. Then let's go ahead. Now, I think this is a later pressing. If I remember correctly, I know Garrett has told me this is like a later pressing, but regardless, still sounds really good. On the back, you have a picture of Billy and the whole production crew, some members of his band, I believe. Very nice photo. There's, of course, Billy's right there, if I hadn't pointed that out already. And there, of course, credits and track listings up there. And then we have the record, which on Columbia. So there it is. It's in this nice red, like most Columbia labels look. Okay, again, not much to say. It did come with a sheet list. Let me just show you that. I was kind of reading it off before, but this side has the lyrics here. Then on the other side, you have Billy, a nice picture of Billy right there with the boxing gloves down there. So very nice. So now, let me go ahead. Let's look at the CD. So here it is. Again, kind of just the same as the vinyl, which is fine. Now the disc is actually pretty cool. It has a nice design. So it's in this nice black, the track listing there, and you have a shot of the mask there. Kind of creepy, but I think that's the point. Then on the inside you have that image that I shown on that inner sleeve before. And on the booklet, on the back of the booklet, you have another photo of, I guess another photo during that photo shoot. And there's, again, the mask and the boxing gloves, and there's Billy on the bed. You open it up, it's just black and text. Not much to say, just gives you the lyrics and the credits at the end. There's the mask once again. Yeah, not much to say on the packaging, but as I've said in other albums in this video, again, it's mostly about the music. The music kind of speaks for itself. Alright, and that is my favorite album of 1977. So, like I always said, these are just my opinions. And of course, if there's albums that you feel that are in your top 5, again, let me know in the comments below. I look forward to reading them. If you've enjoyed this episode, please give this a like, and of course, if you're new, subscribe to the channel. Social medias are in the description, of course, you know the drill. And until next time, I'll see you in the next video. Take care, and oh, that was a terrible snap. Goodbye for now.